Christian, I think we literally have the best music of any podcast ever created.
It's pretty good. It's pretty fire.
He has a plan, she has a plan, and you get to pay for it regardless.
The best way to get someone motivated is to stand for something strongly, deeply, passionately.
Subscribe to Disenthrall. Do as you're told.
Holy crap. You know what this means? Christian, we have to update the intro.
Oh.
It says it's all Patrick Smith stuff. Greetings, General Intelligences. Welcome back to Disenthrall. I will be Patrick Smith. Tonight is going to be me and Christian hanging out, talking about some stuff that's been in our brain cases for a while, with some spicy takes and some sort of stoic, listen, people, you really just need to kind of accept where the world is right now and then figure out what you're going to do about it rather than just thinking it's not happening and wishing it differently. It's kind of the vibe I'm feeling, so I'm going to share it with you guys, and Christian makes every conversation better. So, how you doing, Christian?
I am doing fantastic. I you kind of floated the list of topics that you wanted to cover, and I was like, oh, I'll be there. You tell me when, I'll be there. So it should be an awesome conversation.
It should, man. It should. So there's one topic that I want us to start with, which is artificial intelligence. And I mean, you're the perfect person to talk through it with because you, like myself, have been following it very, very closely, and have experienced both sides of the situation, which is just sort of this awe at the things that we are about to be able to do in the world and the things the technology is about to be able to do for us in the world that no one would have thought it would ever be doing. And then on the other side, just like this bottomless pit of just existential terror and at what we might be in for. And both of us have kind of, I think you're very familiar with the technology as well, how it works, how you generate models, how the models run. And we're also, we've put a lot of thought into things like what are rights and who gets them, and the standards of such things, and what words like sentience and consciousness and the ability to have a mind with an internal state and an external reality that it interfaces with. Like we've thought a lot about all the stuff, and adding artificial intelligence into that conversation has led to some pretty interesting talks just between you and I and other people. And really, I just wanted to kind of bring some of our previous conversations to the channel because I think they've been really cool, and share in the existential dread and share the hope and share the reality of the situation. What do you think? What do you think so far? Where do you think we're at?
Man, where are we at? Well, for anybody who's been living under a rock, disconnected from the internet and with no contact with other humans for the last basically a year, really has been since this has started blowing up now. AI's been moving really fast. It went from interesting, cool projects people were floating tons of money at in 2016 to all of the sudden we're getting new model after new model, and new project is coming into fruition after new project. And it starts with able to answer some sentences and moves into blurry pictures. And now artists are worried that they're going to lose their job, and writers are wondering why they exist. So we've rapidly developed way faster than anyone was ready for.
Thinking back to that previous show we did on AI and art and talking through that stuff, it almost seems like we were already naive as to what was coming. Oh, these artists are freaked out. Oh, that's a big deal. It's like, that's nothing. That's such a minor thing compared to what's coming. And so I wanted to kind of talk about that. I want to talk about the good stuff that's coming, the bad stuff that's coming. I want to like grab people by the shoulders and sort of jar them and be like, look, this is where we're at. This is happening. Whether or not you like it, agree with it, scared of it, whatever, it doesn't matter anymore. This is coming. You need to be ready. It's going to change just about everything, kind of the same way that the personal computer did, kind of the same way the internet did. And I'm not even being hyperbolic. I don't even think if I said that AI is going to change the world more than the internet would be hyperbolic. I'm pretty sure that's just accurate. And so I want to talk about it. I want to shake people's shoulders. So why don't we start with like some of the cool things that it's already being used for already? Off the top of my head, my favorite one that I saw was that it's writing point and click push button lawsuits for robocallers, for spam callers. So if somebody's calling you and you've told them to stop and they continue doing it, you can use AI now to click a button, fill in the information of the people doing it, and it will write a lawsuit that you can just submit to a court to sue the people doing it. So, which opens up a massive can of worms. The artists are scared for their jobs. Okay, what about lawyers? Like, this is going to democratize some of these mental professions, these mind professions, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be real interesting. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, the technology isn't quite there yet. I don't have it in front of me, but if you guys go to Twitter and look up GPT-4, if you put that in your little search bar, you'll come up with all sorts of cool things. And that's really kind of, I think, what motivated this most recent conversation is that this company, OpenAI, released the next development of their large language model called GPT-4. If you've heard of ChatGPT, you can basically think of that just a little souped up. And this new capacities that this more advanced model brings has brought with it a whole slew of basically like competency criterion that they've been using through standardized testing. So the same kind that kids or even adults take in schools or for certifications, if we're talking about the bar exam, they've been feeding these AIs these same problems and tests and questions and seeing how they do compared to humans on average. And for some, like topics like macroeconomics come to mind where they did phenomenally well, but also the bar, extremely high scoring on the bar, which just is coming back to what you were saying. Who 20 years ago would have ever expected AI to replace knowledge workers before robotics replaced unskilled labor? It's a total role reversal, and nobody saw it coming.
Yeah, people are, and admittedly, they're still rough around the edges, but
right,
it's brand new. But you can type in a prompt. You can even give it a picture. Like you could just sketch out a picture of what you want your website to look like on a napkin, take a picture of it, give it to the AI and say, hey, give me a website that looks like that. And it will generate the HTML and CSS and give you a website that looks like what you sketched on the napkin. Like that is, I mean, that's a shot directly across my career's bow. And it's only going to improve. It's only going to get better. And that terrifies a lot of people. And the first thing that people do in modern day and age when they get terrified is run to the government and beg the government to step in and quote unquote protect them by controlling all the bad guys, all the scary things in the world. So that's definitely coming. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I've been thinking about how AI is developing sort of like the lifespan of the cell phone, right? Where we had extremely rudimentary cell phones back in the early 80s, and I even think into the late 70s and to some extent, like the car cell phones and things like that, or the briefcase cell phones that they sold. I've been trying to kind of make like a mental map of these things, and I'm kind of correlating that to like early machine learning processes that people were doing. And I'm trying to decide whether or not we've reached the first model of iPhone or whether we're still on the Razor and we just don't know it yet. The Motorola Razor,
Definitely Razor. Yeah. Yeah, maybe even the brick phone. Like it's really early, man, I think. Yeah. But I mean,
so that's
go
kind of
ahead.
what I was getting at, is that there's still so much room to expand on this thing. A lot of people have been seeing kind of like the competency reports that I was talking about earlier, and saying like, look at what all this AI still can't do. You know, it's not doing very good in this area. It's kind of poor in that area. But I think what people really need to understand is that there's no reason to believe that it won't continue to improve, that this is like the end of the technology or something. So it's important that you start to think about these things now, because I'll be honest, it could be as soon as next year when we see an exponential increase in its capacities. So these are the kind of conversations that we need to be having.
Yeah, right now the language models are glorified search engines. You know, you give them a prompt and they spit out a response. But it is going to very quickly become so much more, and it's going to it's already touching everything. Another great example, just to show the utter democratization of industries that were dominated by experts, would be drug discovery. Someone wrote a prompt. It's just some text. You can copy paste it and change out the important bits of the text that you give to GPT-4, and it will. So here's the prompt. You basically give it a currently available drug, like a pharmaceutical drug, and it will come back and find compounds with similar properties. It will modify those compounds to make sure they're not patented, and it will show you how to purchase them from a supplier, even including sending an email with a purchase order for the drug. I mean, that is about as directly a shot as you can fire at the medical pharmaceutical industry. And if it puts the power of these types of things like law and medicine and drugs in the hands of every man, the world is going to change way more than it did with the internet. And that's why I'm saying I don't think I'm being hyperbolic. It could not decimate, that's the wrong word. It could just revolutionize, democratize all of these license paywalled fields like lawyering and doctoring and drug research, just to name a few. But this is everything. And we were talking about the artists that were worried about their little pictures getting messed up. No. We're talking about turning AI loose to design a not yet patented drug compound for your disease. Like, that's where we're headed. That's where we already are to a certain extent. And give it 5 years and this will be real. And I want people to realize that, like, there are real upsides to AI, real powerful upsides, like the ones that we're talking about. Because everybody's really fixated on the risks and the dangers, and there's a lot of people think it's only downsides. And that's not how technology has ever worked. Technology is a tool, and it can be used for great good and great evil. And it's all about who's swinging the hammer. And we can definitely talk about how the government's going to swing the hammer, which is going to be terrifying and existentially problematic. And the whole theme of the show, though, is I want people to really kind of get their head wrapped around where we are. This is here. This already exists. This is not going away. This is only going to accelerate. This is like when if we were in the early days of dial-up internet access, and everybody had 2400 baud, 1200 baud modems in their house, and they had to, put their phone in the cradle to connect to a BBS or whatever. And some people are worried about some of the effects of, all the potentially nefarious information being shared by people using BBSs. And, they were worried about the effects of that technology and thinking about ways to try and slow it down, retard it, or control it, and having no idea that the internet was about to be born from it and just totally transform the entire world in ways that they couldn't predict or control. That's where we're at. Like, that is where we're at. It's happening. It's already here. if resistance is futile. That's what I want to say. So like, rather than bitch, moan, complain, freak out, and beg the government to save you, which it can't do from this, by the way, I want to encourage people, learn it, embrace it, figure out ways you can use it. Microsoft Office already has it integrated. Like, if you're using Excel and you type in the first row of text, it has an AI that will look at that and generate additional rows for you based on what you typed in. Like, it's already being integrated everywhere. It is a new piece of technology. Let's find ways to use it for good. Let's be let's do some innovation of our own. Let's get ahead of it rather than freak out and run from it.
Yeah, and there's no shortage of people who are already trying to find ways to leverage this technology, even in the rudimentary state that it's in. And I think that's a great mindset to have. Obviously, there can only be so many churned out crap GPT powered websites before the market's a little saturated there. But thinking of novel and interesting ways to improve your own productivity using technology like this, I think will help to acclimatize you and the people around you to how the technology will eventually be employed into your life before it even continues to expand out from there. We live in a very I could see a world where not too far from now, something like an accountant is just a bygone, right? Like, you don't need a person to crunch numbers if you have an AI that knows all of the books and can do math perfectly because it's a robot. You'll never have the accidental carrying of a zero again, right? Is the idea. Anyways, there's more time to grow. But I kind of like where you were going with the government pushing back or there being hesitancy about the BBSs before they bloomed out into the internet. There is a lot of talk going on about how, frankly, dystopian some of the possibilities of unfettered government usage or exploitation of artificial intelligence is. And I think on one hand, these fears are very understandable. It is very easy to see. Like, we are in a world where we have seen how governments have used developing technologies like cellular networks, the internet, to do things that we don't think are that great. But I don't think any of us are saying, well, at least I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I'm not in a position to where I'm going to say, yeah, the government exploited these to do bad things, therefore we ought to get rid of cell phones and the internet. I think as a net impact on our lives, these technologies are overwhelmingly positive. And to some extent, because we live in a world where governments exist and are going to do government things, we have to kind of accept the fact that there is going to be some bad with the good, and it's just as important to keep both in perspective, in my opinion.
Yeah, but then there's those existential threats that just make you want to like dive into Cthulhu's handbag. How's that for alliteration? No. So here's a bad thing to think about with AI. So the thing is, an AI can be trained to produce predictions based on incredibly fuzzy data, data that most humans and most normal computational tools would look at and just see as, this insane Bayesian gray milieu of nothing, just random. And if you train an AI well and long enough, you can actually get useful information. It's sort of like reverse engineering chaos theory to a certain degree with some of the stuff that you can do. And if you think about things like NLP, for those that know what that is, neuro-linguistic programming, it's a method that people use to select very carefully the language that they use when communicating various ideas so as to have a desired intended effect on the person hearing the words. Because humans are machines, they're computers. It's a wet, mushy, moist computer in our skull cases, but nevertheless, most of the brains work in similar ways. And if you learn how those brains work, you can learn how to interface with them to get the desired outcome. NLP is just one example of that. Nonviolent communication is another. It has you keep, pick a goal for the conversation in your mind and choose the way you communicate and the way you behave in a conversation to achieve your goal. These are gross oversimplifications of NLP and NVC, of course, but you get the idea. These are sales pitch. Like you go learn how to be a salesman. You're doing the same thing. You're making a pitch in a way that you think will achieve the highest success rate at making a sale. This is all the same stuff. We're interfacing with brains to get the desired outcome. Wait till you train an AI on that. How powerful will it be when an AI can tell you how to interface with a human to get them to believe what you want them to believe? Like the one of the existential dreads is government propaganda for this stuff. I expect the quality of propaganda from corporate news networks as well as governments to improve significantly with the use of AI. Privacy is basically dead. That might be another thing. That's a spicy take, but it might be another thing that people need to start coming to grips with. Even if you're a loner, you think you're off the grid in the middle of nowhere, you have metadata, and that metadata might not be in the form of zeros and ones on the internet, but it's going to be in the ways you interact with the world around you. And if this data is accessible to anybody, it's going to be analyzable by an AI that's going to pull a lot of information out of it that no one would have been able to pull out before. So are we feeling doomer again yet? I was trying to be all hopeful, and now I'm telling people the other side.
Well, okay, let me try to what is it, white pill it for your black pill. I'll try a little bit. And I'm not going to say that any of the things that you've said aren't true or won't happen. They very well could. But I think there's a way of viewing this as like a matter of perspective where we have to kind of ask the question, is that really much different than something that's already going on now? We see social engineering through social media using machine learning. It's not a very sophisticated AI, but it is technically a type of artificial intelligence for advertising, marketing. Some of the propagandizing bots that were on all over Facebook were entirely run by machine learning algorithms that were generating posts and pulling from content and news articles. So while I do agree that its efficacy and quantity will almost certainly increase, if you're aware of it now, I think you stand a better chance of being resistant to some of those influences in the future if you're diligent of it. Because I don't know if it's an entirely different ballgame. It will just be a much more.
Uh-oh, I lost you. Can you
My
say
internet
that? No, you're back. Say that last thing again.
I was just going to say, I'm not sure exactly where I left off, but I'll just wrap up with basically saying that I don't know if it'll be an entirely different ball game that we're playing here, but it will certainly be a much it's basically like going from little league to straight to the major leagues. They're still technically playing the same sport, but trust me, I understand. There's going to be a degree of proficiency here that is different.
Yeah, things to look for to protect yourself needs to be, I think we all need to become, as though we're not already, highly suspicious and resistant to companies that have an AI behind the algorithm of what they present to us. Because they're not
be all of them at some point.
Yes. And after a certain point, they won't even be able to publish their source. Like Elon just said, March 31st, he's going to publish the source code. He's going to open source the code for the algorithm that controls the Twitter feed, just to be open about it. Well, once that's, fully or mostly AI driven, I mean, you can't really publish the source. Maybe you publish the model itself, which, I'm not even sure how much that would tell you, but I think what the Twitter algorithm has definitely changed. I've noticed a tangible difference in Twitter over the past month, in what I'm seeing. I don't know if you've noticed the same. Could all be in my own head. Who knows? but it definitely seems as if I'm getting more of a raw feed from the people I follow rather than the big news that maybe woke assholes at Twitter want me to see. I feel like I'm definitely getting more raw content from the people I follow. And I think humans will hopefully start to get a feel for when they're looking at a feed that is overly curated and when they're looking at a feed that's more what they're looking for, who they're following. And then what I'd like to see is, like, in the general public, I would just like to see a big sort of pushback against companies manipulating feeds. And this goes for search results too. I'm talking about, well, obviously I'm talking about Google, but I'm also talking about, not Brave Search. Brave Search is the good one that I use. What was the other one?
DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo. Yeah. Found out DuckDuckGo manipulates search results like a year ago. Like, I think there just needs to be a general sentiment, I'm hoping, amongst the public, like, this needs to stop. You need to stop controlling what you think people need to see, especially with AI, because I think AI just makes it way more efficacious. Like imagine, it's almost like a Matrix without the jacking somebody in, is kind of the point. Like, if an AI had the ability to control all of your sense data, what you hear, what you see, what you smell, everything, a model could conceivably make you believe anything and make you do anything. And it's like being in the Matrix and being jacked in and seeing a false reality without actually being jacked in when you're under the influence of one of these things. And I want people to really come to terms with that and realize that they're basically putting a Matrix helmet on in a lot of these things. And I really want the general public to push back.
Is it my turn to black pill? Because that ain't happening.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, you're right.
The general public is not gonna. They're all about, like, oh my god, you're telling me I can have a text chat box do all of my thinking for me? Holy crap! Life just got so much better. So look, my comments were towards individuals, the people who are here thinking about these things. Most of society, it's game over for them. Their brains are going to slowly turn to jelly in their skulls. But that's their own path that they chose, right?
Yeah. Here's another one. A website called Keeper, a dating service, is now matching people by feeding their profile data and preferences, and an AI determines if the match is worth pursuing and automates the hookup of the people.
I'm sorry, what did you say the name of this website was again?
Keeper. Keeper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Research.
Yeah. Inviting in the comments said her partner and her went from being demolished in civil court over custody rights because we no longer have the money for an attorney to filing multiple motions thanks to GPT-4. Are you serious? You've already used GPT-4 to file motions in custody court? Holy crap. That's crazy. Like, this is one of the reasons why I know the government's going to try and regulate it, because it's attacking lawyers' income. Good thing I'm an electrician, says our guy. Yeah. Somebody over on Odysee says, I think the people with white collar jobs will be more secure or more screwed. It's easier to train AI to read case law or financial stats than it would be to rebuild an engine or plaster walls. My take is to do as much with this for my own benefit and to try and stay ahead. Yeah. Try and stay ahead, man. Don't reject it. That's kind of the theme here.
Yeah, just because it blows my mind every time I think about it. I remember being in, like, grade school, junior high, high school even, and the running line was, hey, you got to go to college because the robots are coming and they're coming for the low-skilled labor. You can't be a low-skilled laborer. It'll take forever for the AI to replace the creative jobs, because that's like all the things that make us special, and robots can't be special like us. Well,
I mean, okay, so white pill and black pill combined. So half white, half black, right? So yeah, AI is being used for protein folding to find treatments for disease, to find compounds that can do things like kill cancer and stuff like that. That's going to save tons and tons of lives. It's amazing. The black half of the pill might be that a government is able to use it to design some compound to assassinate specific individuals based on their DNA or something like that. Or a white pill. Like, it's just all over the place because it's just a tool. It's not good or bad. It's just how it's used. And one of the good ways it could be used is maybe they can finally come up with a compound where you could have a literal replicator in Star Trek. It sounds like I'm being like futuristic sci-fi hyperbolic. No, it could probably happen. And when it does happen, it's probably going to be an AI that invented it. Like, that's kind of where we're at. That's what we're looking at now. And if that happens, then the manufacturing jobs start to disappear overnight as things can just be materialized. I mean, this is where we're at. I mean, what a time to be alive. I was born before the internet, and I was one of the people connecting to BBSs over 12 and 2400 baud modems. And I don't know, I'm just in this wild place, man, where I saw the world before, and now we're going all the way to AI in my lifetime. This is nuts. I mean, what a time.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting generation to look back on when the AI is telling the history of humans after they've wiped us out.
Outlaw Barber said he used ChatGPT to find out what laws the SBA did to violate my rights. I have filed suit, and the judge let me do it without me paying any court costs. He says the U.S. Attorney's assistant called me to establish contact on the case and was shocked he wasn't an attorney the way my complaint was written. All with the help of ChatGPT. Guys, it is here. Oh my God. Talk about a Turing test. Not just a, hey, have a conversation about what you did yesterday for dinner with an AI to see if it can fool you. But no, we're fooling lawyers now in their field of expertise.
Yep.
Okay, so I think that is a segue into the second word in the title of this live stream, which is transhumanism. Let's start with the definition, actually. I'm going to pull up a definition of transhumanism, because there is a lot of hate for this word in freedom circles, and I want to figure out why. Honestly, I don't understand it. And what that means is it must mean that what people are thinking transhumanism is something other than what I'm thinking it is. Okay, so Wikipedia says transhumanism is a philosophical and intellectual movement which advocates the enhancement of the human condition by developing and making widely available sophisticated technologies that can greatly enhance longevity and cognition. Transhumanist thinkers study the potential benefits and dangers of emerging technologies that could overcome fundamental human limitations, as well as the ethics of using such technologies. Some transhumanists believe that human beings may eventually be able to transform themselves into beings with abilities so greatly expanded from the current condition as to merit the label of post-human beings. Okay, so right off the bat, I can see that anyone that is religious or that believes in things like the soul, I got that. I understand why that would be like an objection. Like, if you think you have a soul, you're not going to want to like download your brain into an immortal robot. Maybe, actually, I'm not sure. Like,
Probably not.
How is the soul attached to the body, and could that attachment be moved over to a robot? So. Okay, so some people are saying in the chat, Kojal says transhumanism will doom us all. He despises it. It's a scourge. The human spirit will die. We will all be slaves. Okay, so that is it. Thank you, Kojal. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Where are you getting any of that? What I think of when I hear the word transhumanism is I think about all disease cured. I think about amputee victims having perfectly new limbs regrown, or bionic limbs with improved strength attached, or memory, artificial organs, heart transplant, perfect artificial transplant organs. Yes. Or people that have that thing where you have no long-term memory, have a chip implanted that gives them perfect long-term memory. Like, I think, again, this is technology, which is a tool, which can be used for really good and really evil things. Sure, you could also say that the chip implanted to give you long-term memory also monitors everything you think about and reports it to Big Brother. Yeah, that would be bad. I wouldn't endorse that. But it's like, can we talk about it as a technology, as a neutral technology? It seems like people are inherently thinking about these types of improvements on the human species as inherently bad. And I'm trying to understand why. Christian, do you have any insight?
Yeah, so I used to be very non-receptive to the idea that we are all transhumanists of some sort, right? I used to kind of blow it off of like, have you ever heard this one before? It's like, hey, we're basically already transhumanists. We walk around with computers in our pockets. We use them basically every moment of our lives, unless, I don't know, you're old or something. And you never adapted to the technology. And it's meaningfully changed how we are as humans in ways that if you were to go back and talk to somebody 100 years ago and be like, what do you do during the day? And they're like, oh, well, I read a book and watch the sunrise. And you're like, you guys don't even have Flappy Bird? Like, what is this? I think the problem is when it goes from being a tool, it goes from being a tool to being a part of you. Because humans tend to be very foreign body exclusive as far as like their integrity is concerned. So the idea of getting a brain chip is cool and all until, or if you could describe something with all the capacities of the brain chip that would fit in the palm of their hand, I think people would go crazy for it to huge degrees. But the second that you have to say like, well, yeah, we got to like cut out a little slot in your skull and then slip it in and then run the needles through your brain. Everybody's like, I am out. There's fears of medical damage. There's fears of directly integrating with the human body in ways that are non-receptive. I mean, a lot of us sci-fi nerds have seen like the dystopians films and whatnot where transhumanism goes the wrong direction. Plenty of stuff has been written about that. And there's also a certain group of people that I've seen that I don't really think falls into the religious or into the some other camp, but they're people that believe that like transhumanism, they kind of agree with the transhumanist ethos that if it came to be, it could lead to like some neo-human, some post-human creature, and they don't want that. There's something about human nature, the human spirit that needs to be preserved that ought to continue to persist, that transhumanism would actively undermine. Because the idea is that whether or not you agree transhumanism makes humans better from beginning to end of the process, whatever that even looks like, if there is an end, it's a meaningfully different being from beginning to end of that process. And I think that scares a lot of people for good reason. This isn't even getting into like, oh, can the government tap into your brain and, control you like a puppet or anything like that? This is all just like in the brass tacks of what is actually happening. You add all that other stuff on top of it, and I can totally see why a lot of people are not huge fans of the idea.
Holy crap, we have more viewers on Odysee than YouTube. That's so cool. You just love to see
Let's go.
You guys are kings, man. You guys are kings. Well done. Talk about getting away from AI algorithms. Well done.
Let me see some fires in the Odysee chat.
There you go. There you go. So I feel like I'm using a word absent a lot of context that the people that deeply hate it have. And I think that I'm understanding that, but I want them to also understand that they may be adding context to a word that might not ought to be inherent to the word. So I think there's room on both sides for there to be some understanding. People are saying that the Corbett report covered it, has good info on what the parasites running the show have in mind when they say transhumanism. That would be important context.
Yeah.
So maybe I need to talk to Corbett. Maybe that would be, we could talk to Corbett about transhumanism. Saint Earth says YouTube is run by bitch ass Bolshevik commies. Correct. Accurate. All right, cool. So like,
okay, I want to push back on something. Sorry.
You first, and then I'm gonna go ahead.
So, sorry, I'm gonna mess this name up. Kojal Todd in the YouTube chat, he said something that I see a lot that I want to push back on just a little bit. Not saying I completely disagree with you, but do you see where I'm getting? Convenience will make you complacent, weaker, and dumber. I think that is an argument that has been made since, like, I don't know, the wheel. Every time a new technology has been introduced, it's like, hey, air conditioning, it makes men weak. Medicine, it makes the population weak because they're not resistant to disease, and et cetera, yada yada. You can make this argument for any technology, and I'm not saying I don't understand. I get it. It is a drastic change from what we're commonly what we expect as normal life today. But again, you don't have to go that far back to find humans that live meaningfully disparate lives to the ones we do today, who would probably look at us and be like, wow, look at all this convenience that they have. Where is their like vital essence to do anything? Like they push a button on their magic box and food flies to their front door, like,
it's glorious.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Drones soon. I saw a new update on the Amazon drone thing. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was having this same style of conversation about the word transhumanism with a lady on Anarchast recently who is, again, very worried about transhumanism. And the situation that she described on that interview was, she said that I can't confirm or deny it, obviously, but she said that she was at some government meeting where they were talking about injecting nanomachines into people via vaccinations, and then using like a cell phone app to do things such as detecting the number of times that you lie each day. And if the number of lies go over a threshold, then they'll have the nanomachines release hormones to pacify you or calm you down or something. So if this is what people mean when they talk about transhumanism, then that is definitely something different. That is definitely something different.
Yeah, that's very different.
What do you think about that, Christian?
I don't even know if that goes to the ethos of transhumanism. So we could say transhumanism has been co-opted by the elites, the shadow government, whatever we want to say, whoever's calling the shots here. But I don't think that's what transhumanism as an idea is intended to be. It's kind of like saying all of these people who are creating AI now are just creating the inevitable tools of our downfall and destruction. I think most of these people see them as like they're trying to do a good thing. They're trying to do a thing that they think will help. And I think most transhumanists, like every person I've ever met who was a transhumanist, who called themselves that, was like super into medical technology because they want to help save and improve people's lives. That seems to be like where they're all focused right now, at least the people who are really into this idea of transhumanism. I'm just kind of like a casual transhumanist. I think it's kind of cool. I might get a robot leg someday or something. That might be pretty neat. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Kojal's talking about an inherent problem with humans in big cities and how sort of like the human species just degenerates when they're in big cities with all these modern conveniences. And I have to agree in a lot of ways. And in a lot of ways, I also disagree. Like the amount of productivity that I can extract from myself living here in the city is definitely higher than what I could extract for myself if I was out in the country. Am I personally attacked by his comment saying that the human population in cities gets fat as fuck? Yes, I'm personally attacked by that comment. Yes. So there's truth on both sides, and this is this is the challenge we have before us. We have to figure out how to manage ourselves as a species and as an individual with the predilections and weaknesses that our species comes with. I'm not about to give up modern medical science on the altar of making life more difficult so that humans will be more resilient again. Like those, that's
have
just
meaning.
Yeah, to have greater meaning, or to be tougher as individuals because, you know, my kid died to some preventable disease. Like there's truth on both sides of the discussion. Yeah, life's getting easier. Yeah, life getting easier has some clear, demonstrable negative effects on the human species. But it's also getting easier in really important ways too, like medicine and health and food comes to my door automatically. No,
well, yeah, I was going to say, like,
yeah,
you know, some people may call it overly convenient, but I mean, look, greater access to food to me sounds like a great thing. I don't know. I think it's much better that it can exist than that it can't. Right? If we were for some reason in a situation where we just couldn't have DoorDash, you know, whether or not you ought to use it all the time. It sounds like we're in a better world because we're in one where it is possible to have DoorDash.
I mean, yes. It's a technology, so it's good and bad depending on how it's used and how you use it. Maybe that's the actual theme of this whole show. Somebody in Odysee says, to be fair, this chat is the first time I've heard transhumanists in an innocent light. Exactly. So, like, I think there's definitely two crowds that don't talk to each other. And I've heard from the crowd that thinks of all the cool ways we can improve life and living and the quality of life. And I think a lot of the freedom people, and I'm no insult intended, because freedom people are focused on the terrifying ways government uses technology to destroy life and to lower our quality of living. But I don't, this is this weird thing. I'm in this place, guys, where, especially since I took on Anarchast as a channel, I have a foot in two very different camps, and both camps have some very real truths, and both camps hardly ever talk to each other, which is just weird to me. And I'm trying to make bridges, and both sides are resistant to the bridges, and it's very weird and frustrating. That's all I had to say. I'm marveling at my life lately, man. It's been wild.
A man of two worlds.
Oh, Kojal, I knew you weren't trying to insult me. I was making a joke. You're fine. You're fine, dude. And you're right in a lot of ways. The city has been terrible. Like, my whole life revolves around technology. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that half of my interfacing with the world, even to talking to people like I'm doing right now, goes through computers and isn't direct face-to-face meet space communication and interface. So in that way, like Christian was saying earlier, not even just through the phone, but add the computer in as well. Like, we're already transhumanist. You guys are listening to us talk right now via transhumanistic technology. Like, this is not meat space. This is not how humans talk to each other. This weird, like, one-way talking head communication where I can read Morse code from you every once in a while with a 30-second delay. Like, this is already wild, guys. And there's some really good things that can come of it. We're spreading literal liberty philosophy using this technology. And we're also being completely spied on and controlled using this technology. So that's the theme. Like, this is where we're at. We have to figure out how to exist in this space. Yeah. So I'm still curious about transhumanism. Fallstar, producer, awesome, amazing person who landed a very big interview for us coming up next week, I believe. Kind of wild. Dr. Robert Malone, the inventor of the mRNA vaccine, will be on Disenthrall early this coming week. That's going to be a wild one. And I'm low-key going to try and get him to debate. Oh, I can't say it. If I say it, people might start tweeting, and if people start tweeting, it might not work. So
exactly.
Yeah. We'll see.
Consider that your teaser.
Yeah. So that's going to be interesting. Thanks to technology. What was I saying?
Talking about living in two very different camps and trying to bridge that gap between the two.
Yeah. Oh, I was talking to Fallstar. Everybody shout out to Fallstar in the chat, please. Give him a thumbs up because he does a lot of work behind the scenes to organize a lot of interviews for both this channel and Anarcast. And he was the one that landed Dr. Malone for us. So big props to him. If you're listening, Fallstar, try and get a hold of, let's actually try and run down James Corbett, and we'll talk about transhumanism. That'll be a fun chat. See what he has to say about it. Okay. What's next in the title of the show of hot takes? Let's see. AI, check. Transhumanism, check. Do you have anything else you wanted to talk about with AI or transhumanism before we move on?
No, I think we've covered the majority of it. I, for one, welcome our AI overlords and will be readily accepting the brain chip. So,
dude, I've got 40 years, give or take, left on this in this existence, and if at some point before the end of that 40 years, I was confident that I could download my brain into an AI matrix with a robot, so I could become immortal and continue existing, I would definitely look into that. I mean, who wouldn't?
Yeah, well, you got to at least consider it, right?
You have to consider it. Yeah. Okay, so Bitcoin. And again, in keeping with the theme of the vibe that I have been in personally lately, I wanted to subject Christian to this as well. I think in the same way that we're sort of realizing where we're at, the reality of our situation with these other technologies, I think people need to start realizing where we're at with the reality of cryptocurrency and these types of technologies. And the things I'm saying will probably be overstated. I'm not declaring the end of Bitcoin. None of that nonsense. I'm not saying it's over. I'm not saying it failed. I'm not saying any of that. Like that's all overstating what I'm trying to say. So take what I say and maybe dial it back a step or two to get what I'm trying to communicate, because I think this is really true. And I think we need to change how we're thinking about and interacting with cryptocurrency going forward based on it. It's been around for a long time, guys. There are people that are grown-ass adults now that have never existed in a world without Bitcoin. And it has not changed the world. It has not revolutionized anything. If anything, again, I'm overstating, so take what I'm saying and back it off a little bit. But just to be clear, to communicate clearly, I'm going to overstate it to a certain degree. So give me some space, please. People are already pounding their keyboards. I can fucking hear it. I can hear it. Bitcoin has basically been captured by the establishment. It's manipulated by the big banks and by all sorts of special interests. Its mining is very centralized. And another thing, talking about AI. Especially if you add in quantum computing, which is also coming and will probably accelerate thanks to AI. Anything that isn't quantum resistant in terms of its cryptography is at severe risk. And I don't mean at risk 10 years from now. I mean, from the big threat actors, it's already at risk. The governments already have the technology, probably. I can't confirm with a link to a news article where they've admitted it, obviously, but the technology's out there to crack most modern encryption using quantum technology. And in fact, I think there was a story. It was AI related, right? Let me see. Where was it? Oh, okay. So
The
we're
contract?
going to rewind. Yeah, we're going to rewind. Well, it's not really a rewind because we're in cryptocurrency now, but AI plus crypto. There was a guy on Twitter talked about how he dumped an Ethereum contract into GPT-4. And in an instant, it highlighted a number of security vulnerabilities, pointed out surface areas where the contract could be exploited, and then it verified a specific way it could exploit the Ethereum contract. The world is not fucking ready for AI security threats. Period, space. Okay? Like, I've been saying this for a year, but I'm going to get louder now because it's really going to be here. As soon as these AI models are trained to look for security vulnerabilities in any technological system in existence, the world is not ready for the lack of security in anything in information technology. It's going to be earth-shattering. And right now, only the most powerful people probably already have these tools, but it will democratize quickly because information always wants to be free. And these hacker kids will learn how to train models on vulnerability databases, and they'll turn them loose on literally everything. And all you can do as a home user with no control over these large corporations with all of your data is to take steps like use a password manager with different passwords for every website. Limit the information you share to the greatest extent you possibly can with these online services, because I predict many of them are going to be compromised in the near future. And by that, I mean in the next 5 years by AI threats. And that goes for crypto too. And before I elaborate, Christian, you looks like you're about to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to ask kind of coyly, what if you were designing one of these things and you wanted to maximize the number of accounts that you had access to, why wouldn't you just unleash the AI against the password manager companies first? Right?
Sure.
So say you use like Bitwarden or something, or one of those companies.
Don't use those.
Exactly.
LastPass was compromised again in the last month. If you use LastPass, which is the biggest one in the world, the biggest password manager in the world, it was compromised again. I don't think they got a lot of data this time. Bitwarden is anything centralized where you don't have your own data, at least when it comes to your passwords, you're doing it wrong. Welcome to modern times. I recommend KeePassXC, KeePassXC, right? XC or XE? XC, KeePassXC. You have to take ownership and responsibility for your own password file, which means if you lose your password file, if you don't back it up properly, you will lose all of your passwords. That's the downside of not being able to trust centralized authorities with stuff. But the upside is if LastPass gets hacked, I get to, have a cup of coffee and smirk as the people lose all of their private logon credentials because mine are safe. I have responsibility and ownership of my own password file, and I have to take the responsibility for making sure that it's safe and protected and backed up so that if this computer gets destroyed, I don't lose everything. That's a long discussion. That's a total tangent, but I'm just saying, like, you take AI and you add it to information technology and the world is not ready, and cryptocurrency is not ready. Some people are telling me that Monero is already quantum resistant. I have not read any articles from them on that, but that could just be me not having seen those articles. I hope it is, but I don't think most cryptocurrencies are ready. But go ahead, Christian, and then I'll move on to the broader point.
I just wanted to point out one real quick thing, though. This is a bulletproof versus bullet resistant conversation. We're talking quantum resistance, not quantum proof. We're talking about another developing, burgeoning technology that has only showed us a fraction of its potential power.
Yep.
So just keep that in mind as well.
Well, there's already AI models that are trained for ID systems, intrusion detection software companies. So you have a server that's called an ID, intrusion detection server, intrusion detection and prevention server. And there's already AI models, and the AI models does nothing but watch all the network traffic for any kind of sign that somebody's been compromised or that somebody's trying to penetrate the network. So it's absolutely a new arms race, but I'm just telling you, man, the world is not ready. It is not. So the broader point about cryptocurrencies, I want people to sort of just kind of wake up to is that most of these technologies have not been disruptive nearly to the degree that people wanted and predicted that they would be. The big banks are still the big banks, and they're still failing, and they're still getting bailed out, and there's nothing new, nothing has changed. Bitcoin is still mostly a nerd's currency. Let's be honest. And again, I'm overstating to a certain degree. So put your keyboards down and just try and get the point I'm saying. The versions of crypto that are closest to being in a position to actually change the world are not doing the dev in the area. This is my personal opinion. So let's take Monero, for example. They're not deving in the areas where they need to dev to make them easily adopted. And so the cryptos that are actually private and actually stand to be disruptive in the financial space are not getting the adoption that they need to be disruptive outside of the darknet markets. I don't really have a prescription for that other than I wish the cryptocurrency sphere of developers would stop smelling their own farts just long enough to refocus their efforts on things that will actually get adoption. And I don't want to get too specific in the projects that I think are screwing up Bitcoin and screwing up cryptocurrency in general, because that's just going to make people hyper focused on the specific things I bring up rather than the overall message that, look, you guys everyone needs to stop smelling their farts and realize that we're 15, 20, how many years since Bitcoin? Where are we at?
Oh God, that was a long time ago now, actually. Jamie, pull that one up for us.
January 2009. So we're quite a few years in, and it's not happening. It's not happening. Why isn't it happening? Well, maybe because the people that are developing on these projects are focused on the wrong fucking things. The urge to just name names is really strong, but I'm trying to keep it focused. Okay. Anyway, I think I've belabored that enough. Yeah. Okay. So, is crypto's problem that 95% of people are idiot sheep? Well, I mean, that's an intractable problem. So you're not making 95% people smarter. It's that they're not making the technology sufficiently dumb and private by default. And I sound, well, I am who I am. Look, I think aside from the ability to not have your Bitcoin wallet frozen, because it's not private, they can just beat you with a wrench until you give them your private key. Without privacy, it's just, I say this often and it's my hot take and it makes people pound keyboards, but it's like, just use PayPal if you're not using a private cryptocurrency. And if you're not developing, if you're a developer on a cryptocurrency and it's not a private by default cryptocurrency, you're doing it wrong. And if you're developing on a cryptocurrency that is private by default and you're not working on a project that makes it eminently, immediately, easily adoptable by my mother, people that don't know, don't want to know, and don't care to learn, and don't want to spend the time figuring out a new app on their cell phone. You have to make it as easy as PayPal, or we're just smelling our own farts and being libertarian nerd bros. And again, I just want to say that's the state. That's where we're at. Let's wake up and realize how to move forward more productively. All right, now that I've pissed half of the world off. Let me catch up.
Yeah, I definitely.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, you're good. I was just gonna say real quick. Crypto is not really a space that I've been invested in a while. I mean, obviously, I own some crypto. I have used it for transactions on several occasions. But I really caught the crypto fever whenever Bitcoin started getting its first real public traction, and I was convinced that this was going to be a way for me to engage in transactions with other individuals for goods and services without having to be involved with government fiat in the current banking system as we know it. And maybe not too far in the future, people would want and opt in to getting paid with things like Bitcoin, right? But that world slowly kind of receded away from my vision. And I think it took two pump and dumps for me to really have to like sit back and say, I don't think most of the people who are getting into cryptocurrency really care about it being used for transactions. And you could never levy this criticism at somebody who's actively working on this technology, because of course they would tell you that their primary focus is using it as a currency. But just look at for 1 second at what transfer fees are on all of these cryptocurrencies right now, particularly the large ones like Bitcoin. Even Ethereum gas is extremely expensive. They're not,
which I barely understand because they're proof of stake now. So why are their fees high? It's like if you're on proof of stake and your fees are high, you're doing it on purpose. Another hot take. Sorry, I'm just going to piss people off. Go ahead. Sir.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Like at this point, I'm waiting for someone to reconvince me. Like I'm not out there really like fighting the crypto is the next currency fight. I'm waiting for someone to develop a technology that comes across my way that I say, okay, wow, this actually has the potential, because I haven't seen that since the Bitcoin white paper. So I haven't had that moment really recaptured for me for one reason or another. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, Jeremy Kauffman, the CEO of Library, who just got Control-Alt-deleted by the SEC, just tweeted this, and I thought it was my sentiments exactly. He says, I'm increasingly pessimistic about the future of cryptocurrency. None of the problems that got me excited about crypto have been solved 10 years later, and few people are even working on them. I hope I am wrong. That is exactly my feelings. I hope I'm wrong. We gotta pull our heads out of our asses and focus on what's important for this stuff. Okay. I'm going to stop repeating myself now. I just realized you tagged me in an Elon tweet right as we were going live, which is perfectly apropos to what we were talking about. Elon and wild. This is wild. This is what you just said about it's going to be an AI arms race, and Elon is about to use it on the other side. He says, in the months ahead, we will use AI to detect and highlight manipulation of public opinion on Twitter. Let's see what the PsyOps cat drags in. So he's going to be using AI to detect government and corporate manipulation. Wild, man. What a wild time to be alive. Holy crap. This is just wild. Shepard says $1.84 to send $25 in Ethereum last week. Yeah.
Whew. Yeah, I mean, imagine again.
Just use PayPal. Just use PayPal.
Exactly.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's what I was going to get at. Imagine like, you want to buy something from me, and I have to we're right here in front of each other, and then I go to hand it to you, and I say, oh, it's going to be $1.84 in shipping. It's like, well, I had to move my hand from here to you, so
yeah,
it's $20. Yeah. That's how it feels. I get it. They may have all of their reasons for why the technology has to be gassed this way, and I'm sure that there's plenty of people who have done hours of talking and written page upon page about why it is the way it is. It doesn't feel good to use. It does not feel like it should be this way, and that's a problem for their service, that they're essentially trying to provide. That they can be this sort of decentralized, depending on which ones we're talking about, network of cryptocurrencies.
A lot of good comments here, guys. Anti-Lockdown on Odysee says people are a lot more ready to listen now. Years ago, when I suggested to small businesses, they looked at me like I was talking Japanese. Now, with the threat of CBDCs, they're more interested. So that's basically government cryptocurrencies. And I would say that there's a real possibility that governments are going to move fiat into a cryptocurrency so that it's infinitely more traceable than cash. And that is something that
Oof.
is going to be bad news. Bad news for all
From
sorts of privacy.
blockchain. Yeah, from blockchain to in-chains. The story of US currency.
Yeah. Odysee, Shepard, yeah, Odysee is a great example of a crypto technology being done correctly, such that normies use it. Like, there's people that use Odysee all the time that have no idea on the back end there's a blockchain behind it, but there is. And the fact that you don't even have to know that to use it is why they're being successful, and that's how it has to be done, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I want to briefly redress a bad medical conspiracy video that I made. We had a discussion on Discord about it to kind of go talk to some of the people that disagreed with me on the video I made. To summarize, what should I say? The summary was, there's one specific bad argument that I wish people would see as a bad argument and stop using it when they talk about medical conspiracies. And it's basically that big pharma doesn't want you to know that cheap, readily available drugs can cure disease. And the argument is easily shown to be false by thinking about it like an entrepreneur, like a big business that wants to make money. It would be very easy for them to take vitamin C, a very readily available substance, which is the example I used in the video, and offer it as a sidecar to existing treatments if the doctors were demanding it, which is another part of the industry. It's a very complicated discussion, and I think I did a pretty bad job in the video. It was my attempt at a walk and talk, and I don't know, I kind of think I think most people got what I was saying, and some people complimented me heavily on the video, but I definitely could have done better. What do you think, Christian?
I think it was a pretty good video, all in all. I mean, sure, yeah, if you had all the time to like sit down, prepare, make a script, etc., to go through it, I probably would have been a little more like to your liking, but it was a walk and talk. And for that, I think you got your point across just fine. Okay. I mean, and as far as like the content of the video is concerned, I you know, I don't know how much you want to bring this into like a broader conversation about just kind of this deluge of conspiracies that kind of surround us all. Some of which, you know, some of which seem more reasonable than others, but I think it's hard to find any like genuine complaints with anything you said, as far as like, oh, well, it all comes back to the same kind of speculative thought processing that most people get themselves stuck in with conspiracy theories to begin with. So really, other than that, I wouldn't have changed anything about it personally.
There's another thing that people need to stop doing in their conspiracy theories, and I'm speaking broadly on purpose. Anytime you get specific, it devolves. Just like talking about a specific cryptocurrency, it's going to quickly get jammed down into that box, and that's not the point. Broadly speaking, another thing that people need to stop doing in conspiracy theories is collectivizing millions of people into one big they, and talking about what they are doing and what they want and how they are liars or cheats or fraudsters or malicious or evil or whatever. You're collectivizing millions of individuals, all with different motivations and ideas and wants and hopes and dreams. And you're assigning an overly simplistic motivation to a very complicated system. And it's almost incoherent when people make some of the conspiracy statements about some of these massive industries. Like even just saying like big pharma, like that is a massively complex group of groups of people that all have varying associations, motivations, wants, needs, pressures, competitors in the market. You really have to be specific. Otherwise, your arguments hold no weight with anyone that knows how to think. On the masses, it works great. Like if you tell people that don't know how to think, some of these they statements that collectivize people and assign motivations, like they want you to be sick rather than cured so that they can make money off of you. That's going to work on a lot of people that don't know how to think. And I would hope that the people that watch this channel would be able to catch the fallacy in that, the many breaches in reason in a statement like that. And maybe I need to do more on this channel. I've been focused on liberty for the majority of this channel, but I kind of want to start doing more. I kind of want to start doing more reason, more standards of reason, more standards of evidence, more how to think, and stuff like that. Maybe I need to start doing more of that. What do you think, Christian?
I think it's, how do I want to say this? I think the liberty community is a very interesting and unique community with people of all sorts of different ideas and conceptions about how the world is and how things are that kind of come together and cling on this unifying trend that we all have, that like, hey, we want everybody to live free, right? But there's a lot more to living and enjoying a peaceful and happy existence in the world than just like having this one connecting unified thread. And there's a lot of beliefs, in my opinion, at least, that people can hold that can be actively detrimental to how they live their lives, how they are in the world. And using what I believe to be the best way, the best tool for going throughout life, the reason and evidence, can help to alleviate a lot of these issues for a lot of people. And help kind of bring yourself more in line with what is going on in reality and how you can best equip yourself to deal with what is happening. Because a lot of these ideas are creating impossible boogeymen that you'll never be able to address or deal with, because they are just vapid shadows on the walls. And every time you try to look at them, they change shapes or they move to another angle as the light moves with you. So I think it's an important thing to talk about, and it's something that gets kind of skimmed over a lot of times as like a rough edge that I think could use some addressing.
There's about 1 million active physicians in the United States. So another example is when they say that, or when they say that doctors are motivated by X, or doctors are controlled by Y, or doctors are order followers that don't want to step out of line because they're worried about having their medical license revoked. Like, you are literally collectivizing 1 million individuals. It is an immediately false statement when you do something like that. So that's just another example of the collectivization. I am not saying that Pfizer is a good company. I am not saying that there aren't nefarious motives, incentives, companies, and actors out there. God damn it. I'm saying that if you want to expose that and those bad actors and bad motivations and actual evil going on, you need to get specific. That's my point. You'll be a lot more effective at convincing people that know how to think by being specific rather than just saying all doctors are fooled, dumb, I don't know, enslaved. There's all sorts of stuff. Like, all that's nonsense. Stop it. Like, that, you just reject that out of hand. That's just bad reasoning. Whew, okay. What were you about to say?
Oh, no. I mean, like, I even, in a conversation that was had not too long ago, I even bit the bullet, me, anarcho-capitalist guy who's like rotated so much of my life around despising the government lately. I don't know who needs to hear this, but not every person who's associated with this vacuous thing that we refer to that is the state is an evil person who wants to do evil things and hurt everybody around them and steal all of your freedoms. A lot of these people genuinely, legitimately believe that they're doing good things and want to do good. And in some cases, even do things that we would all consider to be good. So when we throw out these hard generalizations, it makes it harder for other people to take us seriously. Like, I think I can do a pretty good job of translating when someone says like, oh yeah, XYZ massive group of millions of people is evil. They're just flatly evil. I'm like, okay, they're probably talking about some specific instance that was done by somebody. But other people who don't already hold that kind of sympathetic attitude towards whatever you're talking about is going to immediately reject that on its face. That kind of that overgeneralizing dogma. So it's not even really helping to communicate the real issue that's trying to get across in any of these situations. That's just another way of looking at it.
Another thing is you really have to be careful, and medicine is a really hot button topic. That's why some people are just losing their shit in chat right now. But like it's like you pick any topic, the military industrial complex, same stuff. Don't collectivize people. Make specific accusations that are cogent, that you can investigate, rather than broad sweeping generalizations that sound good to conspiracy theorists that don't have good standards of reason and evidence, but sound like nonsense to people that know how to watch for this stuff. That's the point. Stop drilling down and getting specific. I kept it general and it still got drilled down and specific. Anyway. It's difficult. It's difficult to separate emotions from reason. I'm talking to myself too. Like, it is difficult. It's frustrating, which is an emotion.
I also don't want, at least from my perspective, like, I don't want to come off like I'm preaching like, oh, look at me up here from my conspiracy free house where I'm looking down on all of you conspiracy peasants with your little conspiracies or anything. That's not what I'm trying to do here. Like, I completely understand the underlying motivations for almost every conspiratorial belief that's been presented to me without adequate evidence. Like, there are dots that you can connect that seem to make all of these things fit together. It's up to us to determine what our threshold is for reason and evidence, when we're going to say that we can adequately believe one of these claims. And some of us have different lines. And I think that there's a better place to put your line than most people do. But again, I don't think anybody is like dumb or bad or anything like that for having a belief that there is some kind of evil happening within the big pharma or whatever conglomerate we want to talk about. The biggest thing is just that it's a frame of mind more than it is a difference in information. I think that's probably the biggest thing that it comes down to. Very rarely is it that there's some key piece of data that everybody else is missing, more so than it is a difference in standards. And I will not stop denouncing the state, because the state as a conglomerate, whatever we're going to refer to there, is illegitimate. It doesn't, mean every single person who's ever touched it has and can only do evil.
What are you talking about?
I was told to stop denouncing the state. So
let me catch up. YouTube or Odysee? Oh, YouTube. Kojal, my dude.
And I don't say the state is evil. To be fair, I don't know if I've ever said those words, and if I have, I think that's sloppy language on my part. I say the state is illegitimate because I don't know. What is evil? Listen, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but like, what even is evil, guys? Come on, seriously, like, what are we pointing at there?
Oh, man. Why don't you just kick open every can of worms on the way through this conversation?
I know, right?
All right, so I can't say police or dude. Okay, every individual police officer cashes a paycheck with stolen money. So yes, I am individually accusing all police officers of being bad. That's not a collectivizing thing. That's all the police, because they all cash paychecks. If you're a volunteer officer that does nothing, literally nothing, then you are the exception. And I make room for that exception, though I have yet to see such an exception. I'm happy to see one if you know.
That was a Molyneux example, right?
What?
The volunteer cop who only did like night shifts at this specific location, who never carried a gun or anything. I think I remember that from one of his videos.
It was either me or Molyneux. I definitely remember talking about that before. I don't remember who it was, but yeah. Yep. Okay, cool. So now we've pissed off the other half of our audience. Who's next?
There we go.
No, look, again, just to summarize, I'm not saying that Big Pharma is good. I'm saying that Big Pharma is a concept, and concepts don't act, so you can't evaluate good and evil based on a concept. You have to actually talk about the individuals that are acting to assign a moral evaluation to. And that's just from a philosophy standpoint. From a conspiracy theorist standpoint, you're going to be a lot more efficacious in your communication if you are more specific. That's my point. Okay, moving on. Let's see. I guess what else was on the title? Oh, insults. Yeah, there's this thing, man. It's been my mantra for years now that I want to know as many true things as I can and as few false things as I can. And in search of that goal, in service to that goal, I'm having lots of conversations that I wouldn't otherwise care to have, because I'm looking for people that can prove me wrong. And I'm looking for people that can teach me something new. And a couple times recently, when people are failing to change my mind, because I don't make it easy on you. I have standards of reason and evidence. Like if you're going to tell me I'm wrong, I'm going to make you do the work of showing me. And several times when I've enforced those standards of reason and evidence and not just capitulated to the first argument that comes along, I get this weird, it's not gaslighting, but it's something tangentially related to that, where they tell me that my commitment to know as many true things and as few false things as I can is a lie, because I don't really want to change my mind. And it's like, that is literally what I'm out here doing every minute of every live stream, every word of every comment reply that I give. I wouldn't be doing any of this if I was lying. That would be psychopathic or something. I don't know. But I guess I just wanted to say that some people don't think about the things that they say on the internet. Now, I know I'm really breaking new ground with that observation here.
I need some tissues, man.
But but if you're going to abuse the benefit of my attention, that's a quick way to get a conversation ended. And if you really don't think that I'm being genuine, why would you talk to me? So I felt the need to say that. Take from it what you will. You have any thoughts?
Nothing. Just one. There's a lot of people who like to try to change other people's minds performatively. And if you're someone who's actually interested in learning things from other people, coming up to someone who treats it like a song and dance, and whoever's peacock feathers shine the brightest wins, is a very not great, not fun experience. And it just kind of makes me want to talk to less people, which sucks, because I need to talk to more people and I need to be exposed to more conversations. But yeah, well, the internet comes with many trials and tribulations. We'll just put it that way.
I see it as an opportunity for self-work, but it's a two-way conversation that I'm trying to have with this audience. I think the Disenthrall audience is wholly unique on the internet, and I will defend that claim. Like, y'all are some smart, dedicated, thinking people, and I appreciate each and every one of you. And I'm not accusing all of you of saying that stupid shit. I just wanted to point out that it's not easy always being open to conversations with almost anyone on the internet. Like, it's a challenge sometimes. Strategic Tactic on Odysee says, I got to use my favorite insult the other day. Wisdom has been chasing you, but you have been faster. That's great. That's great.
Oh man.
The other thing that I'm moving more and more towards, and part of it is out of necessity, so you guys should just also be aware, like as the channel grows, which is awesome. I just have less time for comment sections on YouTube and Odysee or whatever. Less time for talking because it's like an inefficient, slow means of communication. If you disagree with me, reach out, hop on Discord. We'll have a voice chat. I can do a lot more of those than I can text chats. And when we do them on voice, if they're good, we can always put them out as separate videos, which will then help a lot more people than just you and I. So I'm going to really stop engaging as much in the comments just because it really is less productive. It's a poor way of communication. People communicate on the internet poorly via text, and they do a lot better with real-time communication methods like voice. So I'm going to really focus on those. You guys are all welcome on our Discord server. And somebody was mentioning people won't leave Discord, which is turning more and more into a spy platform for real. So again, I will point people to our Rift server. Rift is a new end-to-end encrypted self-hostable Discord destroyer. We are one of very, very few people in the world that have early beta access to it. We might actually be the only group that has our own server that doesn't work for the company that's making it. So hit us up on Discord. We'll give you the connection information and you can join the private beta for that. It's still a little rough around the edges. It doesn't have all the features of Discord yet, but it's coming along. I think it's going public in the next month or two. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, anybody who's used to Odysee, don't be scared away by like the rough around the edges. I promise. It's you've been through the cycle of making something great for an alternative platform. So give it a try if you haven't yet, especially if you're already someone who's, like an adopter of Odysee or platforms like that. It could be something really cool.
Yeah. And so as most of you by now know, I'm no longer with Float, the social network, as chief technology officer. My next venture is going to be a hosting company, of the quality and standard that I would want in a hosting company for my data. So it's really not easy to form a private hosting company in modern times. And it's going to be a process. But I'm going all the way. I'm going just as far as I can possibly go to provide a hosting company that is as private and secure from all governments as possible. I'm calling it Zero Eyes, which is a play on the word. The people might know about it, called the Five Eyes, which is 5 companies that have signed mutual agreements to spy on each other's citizens. For example, the U.S. is not allowed to, according to the Constitution, wink, spy on us here in the States. So what they'll do is they'll reach out to the other 4 eyes in the 5 eyes and have them spy on you for them and report back, which is, of course, not a violation of the Constitution at all. Anyway, so the 5 eyes is a real thing. There's also like 7 eyes and 12 eyes and 14 eyes or whatever. But there's a lot of countries that have these privacy violating agreements between each other. So the hosting company's name will be Zero Eyes Hosting, and I'm working on getting a corporation formed in Switzerland, which is not trivial at all. They don't just let anybody in the world make a company in Switzerland, but out of all the countries that you can form a corporation in the world, Switzerland is the best, which is a weird paradox. Like, they literally take subpoenas for information and search warrants and throw them in the trash from the United States. But on the other hand, they're the seat of the UN. So it's like, dude, the world is wild, man. And it's really hard out there for private, for companies that want to provide privacy to their customers. But anyway, I'm going as hard as I can. I'm going to be forming the first corporation will be in the US just to get it rolled out. But then as soon as possible, we'll be transitioning to a Swiss-based corporation and getting our servers hosted over there. For anybody that wants a Rift server, that will be coming in the next several months. But anybody that wants in on the beta now, hit us up on Discord and we'll get you hooked up. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's got end-to-end encrypted chat, end-to-end encrypted voice. It has a thing called social encryption, which most of you have no idea of because it's only existed in this thing called Demon-Saw, which is a hacker's communication tool. It's really complicated. Not good for going into now, but it's really cool. It's being developed by a guy that has been in the hacker community for quite some time. He's developed government resistant encryption communication technologies in the past. Anyway, Rift is going to be awesome. Hit us up. We'll let you in on the private beta. That's it for me, Christian. You got anything else you want to chat about?
Nope. Got a few videos in the pipeline, so keep an eye out for those. Still, I think what Patrick was talking about earlier, I think trying out some new content, but still staying within that same kind of lane, I think it could be a good fun time for all of us involved. So look forward to that here in the near future.
Yeah, all the spicy memes are not on our Discord server anymore, for example. The good conversations are all over on Rift. It's so good, guys. It's so refreshing to have a place where you can speak freely and make the edgy ass jokes that are funny but highly inappropriate. Just comedy, humor is finally free again, which is something most of us have grown used to not being able to have on social media these days. It's refreshing. And yes, it's really cool. Like, I didn't want to take too much of people's time on this, but it's really cool. There's end-to-end encrypted file spaces. So Christian and I have uploaded an entire library of philosophical books and reading and audiobooks, and got a whole library there. Just think of it like Discord. So like you have voice chat, text chat, and add on to that file sharing. Screen sharing is not out yet, but they're working on it. So anyway, it's going to be cool. It's going to be great, guys. Kojal, join me in voice chat on Discord. Let's talk through it. I think we have some disagreements. We'll see how it goes. Come on over, man. Anti-Lockdown says, how's it compare to XMPP? It's Discord, so it's got a lot more cool features. It's beautiful too. Like you can skin the whole thing, theme the whole thing. It's really good. Recommendations for books or courses on learning AI? No. I'm kind of self-taught in that regard. I'm not immediately familiar with books or courses on AI. I just kind of, I guess, self-taught myself. So, I apologize. I can't really be helpful in that regard. All right, guys. Shepard, I see you over in Discord. Yeah, we'll get you in Rift today for sure. 100%. All right, guys. I almost said peace, love, and anarchy, but that's Anarchasts. I need a sign out. We need a sign out for Disenthrall. Christian, what do we say?
You've now been disenthralled. That's terrible. I wasn't being serious, just to make sure that was clear, because that was awful.
No, I'm going to use it now. That is it. All right, here we go. All right. My buttons aren't working. Thanks for watching, everybody. You've all been... You've all been disenthralled.